Module 10, Referrals and Resources. This module will discuss national, state, and local resources available to low-income families experiencing domestic violence. The objectives of this presentation are to understand available resources for domestic violence survivors, including national, state, and local resources, and to develop a working knowledge of organizations which provide services to assist survivors with finances, housing, food, healthcare, childcare, employment, transportation, and education. Public assistance. This section will discuss the types of public assistance available to low-income families. Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, also known as TANF, is a federal assistance block grant instituted in 1996. It is administered by states rather than provided directly to individuals or families. The California Work Opportunity and Responsibility to Kids, also known as CalWORKS, is California's implementation of TANF. CalWORKS is a welfare program which provides cash aid and other services to eligible families. It is operated by each county of social services. When people refer to welfare, they are most likely referring to TANF. TANF is a block grant program which provides federal funds to states and tribes each year in order to fund public assistance programs. Under the welfare reform legislation of 1996, TANF replaced the former welfare programs known as Aids to Families with Dependent Children, or AFDC. The Jobs Opportunities and Basic Skills Training was also replaced with this program. TANF funds are intended to cover benefits, administrative expenses, and services targeted to needy families. California provides TANF funds and services to recipient families through a program called CalWORKS. CalWORKS assistance provides immediate short-term assistance for families with little or no cash in need of emergency assistance to providing housing, food, utilities, clothing, or medical care. It also provides ongoing assistance by providing qualified families with cash each month to help pay for housing, food, and other necessary expenses. The amount of cash aid is dependent upon a number of factors, including the number of people in the family, the special needs of the family, and the income of the family. CalWORKS eligibility. Generally, services are available to families that have a child or children in the home who has been deprived of parental support or care because of the absence, disability, or death of either parent. Or families with a child or children when both parents are in the home but the principal earner is unemployed. Or a caretaker who takes in a foster child. Specific eligibility requirements also take into account an applicant's citizenship, age, income, resources, assets, and other factors. It is important to note that undocumented immigrants are not eligible to receive CalWORKS. The CalFresh program. CalFresh, formerly known as food stamps, is California's implementation of the Federal Food Assistance Program known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. The CalFresh program provides monthly electronic payments to recipients, which can be used to buy most foods in markets and grocery stores. CalFresh services are intended to supplement recipient families' food budgets in order to improve the health and well-being of qualified households. California recently passed a law, AB 6, which removes the fingerprint requirement for CalFresh eligibility, allowing undocumented immigrants to access the program. The CalFresh program eligibility. You can have income from a full or part-time job, unemployment benefits, general relief, or CalWORKS and still get CalFresh. If your income is below CalFresh income guidelines, you may qualify for CalFresh. If you are 60 years of age or older, disabled, or if you get Medi-Cal, you may also qualify for CalFresh. Some applicants may be able to get expedited CalFresh. That is, they may get approved faster for their CalFresh. Eligibility is expedited services. Applicant has less than 100 in accessible resources or 150 in gross monthly income. If an applicant's combined monthly gross income and accessible resources are less than their monthly utility and rent or mortgage. Or if an applicant is a destitute migrant seasonal farm worker whose accessible resources are less than $100. The Welfare to Work program. Unless exempt, recipients of CalWorks are required to participate in the Welfare to Work program. Welfare to Work is intended to assist CalWorks recipients in obtaining or preparing for employment. Program participants receive employment-related services and may be eligible for help with childcare, travel expenses, and work or training-related expenses. Program participants must meet Welfare to Work minimum requirements in order to continue receiving aid. Adults in one-parent families must spend at least 32 hours per week in Welfare to Work activities. In two-parent families, they must spend 35 hours per week. Unemployed Welfare to Work participants are required to participate in work-related activities, which may include unpaid work experience or preparation, vocational training placements, or adult education or community college programs. Under the family violence option included in CalWorks, county welfare departments must identify applicants who are abuse victims while protecting confidentiality. They must refer abuse victims to domestic violence supportive services, and they must waive CalWorks requirements that an applicant cannot meet due to abuse. Welfare caseworkers can determine if a victim of domestic violence is eligible for good cause waivers and recommend or grant the waivers. For example, victims can receive a waiver for time limits, which would stop the clock to give them more time to receive the supportive services they need. Or victims could also receive a waiver of their work requirement or their child support cooperation requirements, since legal action against a domestic violence perpetrator can place a domestic violence victim at greater risk. Supplemental Security Income, also known as SSI, is a federally funded program which provides income support to people who are age 65 or older, blind, or disabled. The State Supplementary Payment, also known as SSP, is the state program which augments SSI. Eligibility for both programs is determined through federal criteria. So if you are eligible for SSI, you are also eligible for SSP. People eligible for SSI and SSP are age 65 or over, blind or disabled, or are a blind or disabled child. You must file an application for SSI or SSP. You must meet income and resource limits and must be a U.S. citizen or a non-citizen who has been lawfully admitted for permanent residence, meets certain special conditions, and are a U.S. resident. You must not reside in a public institution, and you must apply for benefits from all other programs for which you may qualify. It is important to note that undocumented residents of California are not eligible for SSI or SSP. Health services. This section includes slides on Medi-Cal, Healthy Families, Family Pact, WIC, and local resources. Medi-Cal is a public health insurance program which provides needed health care services to low-income individuals, including families with children, seniors, persons with disabilities, children in foster care, pregnant women, and low-income people with specific diseases such as tuberculosis, breast cancer, or HIV or AIDS. Healthy Families is low-cost insurance for children and teens. It provides health, dental, and vision coverage to children who do not have insurance and do not qualify for free Medi-Cal. Children and teens who are eligible are children up to their 19th birthday, children who are not eligible for or enrolled in no-cost Medi-Cal and do not have health insurance through someone's job, children living in California, children who meet citizenship or immigration rules, children in families with incomes within the Healthy Families Guidelines, and children born to mothers enrolled in the Access for Infants and Mothers program. It is important to know that this program is not accessible to undocumented immigrants. Family Pact is a program that provides no-cost family planning services to low-income men and women, including teens. Services are provided by doctors and clinics all over California. The program will help with prevention of unplanned pregnancies, protection of reproductive health, educating about and providing birth control methods, and providing education, counseling, and treatment. The Family Pact eligibility process is completed through a Family Pact provider and has 4 simple eligibility criteria. If eligible, the participant's Health Access Program card will be activated and they will be seen the same day. Eligibility includes a California resident. Your income for your family size must be at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. The client must have no other source of health care coverage for the family planning services or meet the criteria specified for eligibility with other health coverage. And you must have a medical necessity for family planning services. WIC provides supplemental foods, healthcare referrals, and nutrition education to low-income pregnant, breastfeeding, and non-breastfeeding postpartum women, and infants and children up to age 5 who are found to be at nutritional risk. Mental health services. Mental health services for low-income families are provided through the county mental health department. Services might include inpatient and outpatient care, counseling services, or 24-hour crisis lines. It is important that all advocates are familiar with local mental health services available in your community. All county mental health departments have 24/7 hotlines for local residents seeking assistance in a crisis and to access local mental health programs. Any resident can call 24/7 or walk into a county mental health office during business hours and speak with a crisis worker. The Substance Use Disorder Program, Policy, and Fiscal Division directs prevention and treatment programs that address substance use disorders. Its core functions include developing and implementing SUD prevention strategies, reviewing and approving county SUD treatment program contracts, and granting applications submitted for state and federal funds for SUD services. The California Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs is responsible for administering prevention, treatment, and recovery services for alcohol and drug abuse and problem gambling. Services might include inpatient and outpatient treatment, detox programs, and support groups. Knowing your local substance abuse services available in your community will benefit your ability to help survivors. Shelter and housing services. This section is meant to provide information about local shelters and organizations that provide food, clothing, showers, and other homeless services. Emergency shelter is shelter provided to a client in an emergency. Typically, this can be a voucher in a motel or a bed at a domestic violence shelter. Generally, this is not dependent on income. This is usually a short-term option. Homeless shelters are a type of emergency shelter, although it is not domestic violence specific. Shelters will serve a range of people, including the mentally ill and those with substance abuse addictions. Transitional housing is generally considered more long-term housing, provided to a client after they have stabilized and been in shelter. Transitional housing is generally 6 months to 1.5 years. The intent is to provide the client with a stable place to live while they find a job, get settled, maintain recovery, heal, and learn to be self-sufficient. Federal housing programs. This is a general overview of the types of federal housing, but an expert is needed to work with domestic violence survivors on this issue. There are many public housing options which fall under these two categories. The privately owned subsidy program is subsidy offered to an apartment or building owners to provide low-income housing to tenants. The subsidy is attached to the building, so if the tenant moves, they lose the assistance. And the Housing Choice Voucher Program is subsidy or a voucher provided to the tenant, who is responsible for finding a place to live. To apply for federal housing, a person must submit an application to the local public housing authority. Applicants must meet eligibility, and applicants are also screened for their ability to pay bills, history of disturbing neighbors, property, criminal activity, and etc. This applies to the renter and anyone else living in the house. Child care services. This section is intended to identify state and local resources for child care. The CalWORKS Child Care is a 3-stage process intended to help families gain the long-term child care necessary for families to successfully obtain employment and transition off of aid. Stage 1 begins with a family's entry into the CalWORKS program. Clients leave Stage 1 after 6 months or when their situation is stable and when there is a slot available in Stage 2 or 3. Stage 2 begins after 6 months or after a recipient's work or work activity has stabilized, or when the family is transitioning off of aid. Clients may continue to receive child care in Stage 2 up to 2 years after they are no longer eligible for aid. Stage 3 begins when a funded space is available and when the client has acquired the 24 months of child care, or after transitioning off of the aid. Head Start is a federally funded child development program for very low-income young children and their families. This program serves children aged 0 to 5 and pregnant women. The services include education or special education, medical, dental, nutrition, and mental health care, social services, and parental involvement or community partner services. Education or special education services include several school options, including half-day and full-day. Health services include medical, dental, nutritional, and mental health care. Participants also receive 1/3 of the daily nutritional requirements each day they attend school. Social services include education, advocacy, and referrals to parents. And parental involvement or community partnership includes parents volunteering in the classroom and attending or facilitating trainings and workshops. Education services. It is important for advocates to be familiar with universities and colleges in the local community, as well as financial aid resources. You should be aware of local educational institutions such as community colleges located in your community, universities located in your community, and other educational or vocational programs available. It is also important to know that undocumented residents of California can in fact attend California community colleges and California state universities. Undocumented residents will be required to pay non-resident tuition unless they qualify for AB 540, which is the state law that allows qualified undocumented students to pay in-state tuition. Financial aid options include the FAFSA, Federal Work Study, and scholarships. The FAFSA is a resource for federal student financial aid. FAFSA may provide grants, loans, and work-study funds to applicants who meet eligibility requirements. Applicants should apply online, and it is important to be familiar with deadlines and eligibility. Federal Work Study is a federal program to assist students in funding education. After being granted work-study funds, students must find a work-study job through the school they attend. Scholarships are available through a variety of organizations and sources. Domestic violence resources. This section identifies national and state domestic violence organizations. The California Partnership to End Domestic Violence is a statewide coalition which provides public policy advocacy, communications, professional training and services, collaboration, coalition building and networking, cultural competency, and victim resource and referral services. The partnership's website is www.cpedv.org. National organizations include the National Center on Domestic and Sexual Violence, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, the National Network to End Domestic Violence, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The websites and/or phone numbers for these national resources are on the slide or can be found by searching the internet. Some resources for teens include Love is Respect, which offers 24-hour support regarding teen dating violence. Teens can call or go to the website for live chat. Another resource is the Love is Not Abuse website. And the California Youth Crisis Line offers 24-hour support to youth in crisis. Teens can call or go to the website for live chat. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Module 10's presentation. As you continue to explore the Module 10's curriculum, completing the exercises and activities will provide a deeper understanding of the resources available to domestic violence survivors.